recording. Yes. Hello. So, happy Thursday. It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Sun is shining, and I wanted to come on and share some story time. Some story time. Um, I always kind of felt drawn to speaking, to singing, anything really to do with my voice. God has gifted me in such a way that, I have clarity of thought and my speech is easily understood, as well as, a very beautiful singing voice. So a lot of times I not only like to share my gifts, but also it's very healing and therapeutic for me as well, to tell stories. So today, the reason I was really kind of prompted to do this is that I went to look up an old acquaintance, and I hadn't thought about or spoken to her for a number of years. And unfortunately, when I went to look her up, she had passed away. And I think for me, I did shed a couple of tears. That's why my eye makeup's a little more natural now, I guess. But I, then was quickly drawn to remember the good times and some of the good memories that we shared together. But it just made it all more pronounced in my mind that the present moment is truly what we have, because we never know either when we're going to leave here or when our loved ones are going to leave here, or when, anything basically could happen. And I want to spend the rest of my life enjoying it the best I can. As they say, make the rest of my life the best of my life. Okay. And so, as many of you know who have been on my social media, or have followed me over the years, if you're related to me, if you're a friend of mine, if you know anything about me, then you know that I have become engaged in a more spiritual side, and not necessarily religious, but very into truth seeking and truth telling, and being aware, I think self-aware, and understanding how who I am makes an impact on the world, and also how the world makes an impact on me. Now, my educational background is, of course, in human services and social work. So I have always, even as a small child, had an interest in helping others. I love seeing people thrive. I love seeing people live out their fullest and highest expression. So all these things said, all these things in consideration, it's only the natural step in that whole evolution and that whole self-growth and awareness process is for me to begin to utilizing, as I said, my speaking gifts and sharing stories and communicating with the world. And, so many of us at this point in time are not able to interact in person, due to the COVID-19 restrictions, and, just different schedules and things like that. So to me, the vlogging is really going to be impactful and beneficial, like I said, not only for me, but for others, because you never know who will understand, not only just understand you and what you're talking about, but how your story might resonate with them as well. Because we're all really one big human family. And we have this brotherhood and this sisterhood of humanity. We have our shared humanity, but sometimes we forget that, and we think we're so different from our neighbor. We think, oh, they're white, they're black, they're poor, they're rich, but at the end of the day, we're all one human family. And I think now there's this whole trend, especially with the immersion into, comparison, who has this and who has that on Instagram and all these different social media outlets, is that we forget that we each have a beauty and a uniqueness that we're here to share with one another. And my hope and my prayer is to bring awareness back to, our, not only our shared humanity, but bringing harmony, especially between the masculine energy and the feminine energy, because we're made to complement each other. We're not supposed to be competing with, the opposite sex. We should be in a position where our natural energy benefits one another. But I think we got to get through the insecurity. We got to work through some of our fears. So, as I said, may my friend rest in peace. She, did not realize maybe during her lifetime the impact that she had because we had been distanced for many years. But immediately upon seeing her obituary, I recalled, some of the little things that she did that made me feel like I belonged, that made me feel like I was special, that I mattered. And so many of us, we become isolated, or we're, so busy wearing masks that we forget that, we're just like anybody else. We all deserve love. We all deserve respect, no matter what our chosen path in life may be. And so, in her honor, may she rest in peace. I want to come on and remind everyone of the necessity of living in harmony, the necessity of doing that one kind thing, whether it's bringing your neighbor some groceries, or and especially during it's Virgo season, so all this helpful energy. Virgos are the proverbial not just lovers but caretakers of the zodiac, and not in an unhealthy way, not codependency necessarily, but they remind us to be pure in heart, and to not just think about ourselves and to think about others. They're big givers. So every little kind thing that we do can have an impact in such a big way. It can be one. I remember specifically one meal that she made, that just through that act of love in cooking, that act of service, stuck with me, somewhat 20 years later, that I was nice enough of a person, of a human being, that she would take the time to cook, a good meal. So it's things like that also that make life worthwhile, especially in the midst of trouble and craziness. I think we're all in a position now where we're focused on what really matters. Love, the non-tangibles. I mean, it's great to have new homes and new cars and plenty of money. May God bless us with all of that. Yes, I'm for prosperity. But at the end of the day, if you don't have quality interactions and you don't have people that love you and support you, I mean, what does it matter? Like, if you have a ton of money but you don't have a cause, or you don't have anybody to share it with, like, what is the point? Like, it's kind of pointless. But I just wanted to share a little bit about my life, because some people just kind of know me through passing. Probably think I'm a little kooky, and I post like at least 1,000 times a day on social media. It's like my little thing. But I love spreading positivity. I love spreading, happiness and cheer. I think, like I said, there's enough craziness going on in the world, and you have plenty of people who can be, negative and Debbie Downers with you. I just feel like, okay, you know what? I'm going to wake up and put myself in a position, through my morning routine, where I at least have some energy left over to spread good in the world. And that may be, benefiting people I don't even know about. So that's my energy. I'm a naturally bubbly, loving, caring, outgoing type of person. But at the same time, I believe in healthy relational boundaries. I think that those are important and impactful. I tend to attract, a lot of people who need help and a lot of people who need healing. But I have learned that it's important to maintain a sense of balance. So one way that I'm finding balance is speaking my truth and not having, I guess, unrealistic expectations for myself in terms of like, oh yeah, you're just happy and sunshine all the time. Well, child, that's because I was up at 5 a.m. in my prayer closet, see? Or, in deep trance meditation, transcendental meditation, to, clear my heaviness and the toxic thoughts. I think, recently I explained in another video about being an empath. And empaths are highly intuitive people, which is what I am. I'm very sensitive to energies around me. I know how you feel about me, whether you verbalize it or not. We're energy people, so we're affected sometimes by weather, pets, plants. I mean, you name it, clothing, detergents can set us off. I mean, it's just really insane. Now, for many years, it caused me to have struggles because I think I was internalizing a lot of what I was taking in and feeling the responsibility of holding on to everybody's energy and everything about everybody. Can you imagine? It's kind of like that movie Sixth Sense, when that little boy, could see dead people and he was walking around and he was like, I see dead people everywhere I go. And a lot of people are talking to you and they're standing there. But if you're an empath, you're aware that they're going through a divorce. You're aware that their dad just died. You're aware that they don't like you and they're just faking it. So, and you're holding all that in. You're aware that they have trauma. They have something imbalanced in their system. And then what do you do with it? Because nobody's taught you that that's what you are. That's who you are. So you're just, walking around with all this heaviness and, all these unprocessed emotions. And then most of the uninformed empaths kind of become like codependent, and they start wanting to like get into social work and help everybody, and they're going to just fix all the problems of the world. And in fact, that was the energy reading of the morning was like, a lot of people are feeling the weight of the world on their shoulders. I mean, I could feel that. Like, I woke up feeling it for you. So I already know that a lot of people are walking around in heaviness. And for some people, it's really strange because, like, they're going to church. They're doing all the things that they normally do. They pray, they fast, they're talking to friends, they're calling their counselor or therapist. But they just still feel this overwhelming sense of doom. Well, you know what? You're not alone. This is all of us. And, honestly, I don't think any of us anticipated where we are right now in terms of all the different negative things that are happening. I mean, it's all over the world. It's not just here in the United States. I mean, you've got bombings, you've got fires, you've got sickness, you've got deaths, you've got diseases, you've got all kinds of crazy stuff. And some people are like, oh, it's the end of time, and that's, up to interpretation. But I will say that, one thing that helps me stay grounded and centered is understanding the mercies of God. Because, if you're a Bible person, it clearly states that every morning his mercies are renewed. That's why the mornings are so important. Like, how you start your day is so important. First thing in the morning, ground yourself, center, meditate, set your intentions so that whatever comes, you have a calm mind and a calm nervous system so that you're able to handle it rationally. If it's a great day, fine. If it's an okay day, great. But if it's a challenging day, you find that you get through the difficulty much easier when you're in a calm and centered state. This is so key and so pivotal. So not to go off on a tangent, I'm drinking peppermint and green tea today because peppermint is good for mental clarity and green tea burns fat. And as you can see, honey, yes, the pandemic has caused me to put on a few pounds, but I still love me. And I've been exercising and get, Virgo season makes you like healthy, you're on your health key, fasting and all this stuff. So it's good. And I love it because I need it. Because, we're mind, body, and spirit. So if you're holding your mind, if you're developing, a clear conscience and thinking clearly, you're going to be speaking clearly. You're going to be setting things in motion with your positive thoughts and your positive speech about yourself and the world around you. And it's not just helping you, it's helping everybody. If everybody, just imagine a world where everybody wakes up and they're like, oh, woe is me, it's so much pain and suffering. Okay, you're just exacerbating the problem. You're making it worse. But if everyone's getting up, or, even some of us are getting up and saying, today's going to be a great day. I know God is on my side. I have no fear. God hasn't given me the spirit of fear, or whatever your mantras or your, words of affirmation and positivity are. Of course, it's going to shift the outer world for you and others. So again, your mind being whole, your body being, balanced, it's not so much like for me about restricting, because I used to, think everything had to go hard and vegan all the way or whatever. But now it's more about, eating intuitively, listening to what my body needs instead of just stuffing food down or eating for the wrong reasons, like emotional reasons or stress. The food is not where you want to go for that. You want to use your food as a nutritional source. It's for nutrition. Okay. And I was reading something really profound yesterday when the author mentioned how when you eat plant-based, or you eat mostly foods that come from the earth, something that grew out of the ground, you're actually in sync and in harmony with the earth. And according to Native American culture, when you're not healthy and you're not feeling well, it's because you have a disconnect from nature. I mean, everybody knows them herbs and the berries and things that God gave us, They're life. I mean, literally life. As they say, you are what you eat. So if you're eating a bunch of junk and then you're consuming junk on TV and on social media all day, and then your cousin or friend calls you and they're talking junk, and then now you just got a junkie mind and a junkie body, and you just wonder why you feel bad all the time. Like, at some point, we got to be like, okay, let me find some balance here. Okay? So, again, the mind whole, the body whole, and then, of course, your spirit, whether that's through some people prefer church, some people, feel their spirit is fed through nature, some people feel like their spirit is fed through meditation or chanting or whatever. But however you connect to the divine, to source, to the creator, that is so key. Every day, every single day, I need to know. And then throughout the day, is really good for your soul. So having said all of that, my story, is probably not as uncommon as I might think, but my background is that, I grew up in a very, very dogmatic religious church and church family, church home. And it was weird because when I was a young, small girl, I was a lot more free-spirited. From what I've been told, I used to throw tantrums a lot, but that's just because I didn't really want to come here, I think. I think I was mad I had to disconnect from wherever I came from with my weird self. But anyway, as I got, a little older and our lives progressed, like church was always a really big part of our lives. And, one thing that really inspired me a lot was the singing because, come to find out, I come from a very musically rich family on both sides, on my maternal and paternal sides. And so, music was always a release, especially for people of color. We've been singing, God knows, since the slave field, because that's how we, were able to share information. That's how we were probably able to escape sometimes. And also to have a mental escape, to recognize our divinity, because when you're stripped down to nothing, and someone has taken your agency and taken your freedom and said, hey, I don't care who you are and what you say your God is, you gonna pray to the God I say you're gonna pray to, and you gonna pick this cotton because you are a slave and you don't have a choice in that matter. But being able to sing, to transcend that in and of itself is a spiritual process, is a spiritual awakening. So a lot of them were able to leave, the depths and the darkness and the despair of their negativity and rise up through that music to their divine state, because we're all divine beings, regardless of what anybody tells you or tries to impose on you, honey, because we're made in the image of the Most High. That's just how it is. So male and female, that's what the Bible said. But anyway, as time went on, I began to become more involved in a different sect of religion, I guess you could call it, which was more, I'm going to say, catastrophic and more doom oriented and more, hellfire brimstone type preaching. And so when you're a child coming up in that environment, you don't understand that there is a whole plethora of beliefs and a whole plethora of world experiences you can have. You become entrapped because, according to psychology, your personality really develops by age 5. So by the time I arrived into this new strict church environment, I already had a personality. I already had a soul. I already knew, how I was going to navigate and get through the world. However, coming into this environment, I was expected to be someone completely opposite of who I felt, I was on the inside, who I was as a child of God, So, suddenly there's all these rules, there's all these restrictions about how to worship God. It's no more about having a connection with one-on-one with God. It's having a connection to God through the church structure, the church discipline, heavy on the discipline, and in my personal belief, the church abuse, because it was more like a cult situation than it was a loving church home. And so for a lot of people now who don't understand why, I'm not a churchy person. I'm like, I got enough Jesus juice and enough Bible thumping to last me the rest of my life. Thank you, God. I'm good. It's not that I have a problem with going to church. It's not that I don't love going to church, but to some people, church is a place of trauma. And when you like yourself, it's this weird thing. When you really learn to love and like yourself, you tend to avoid the things that cause you either nervousness or sadness, or to become despondent, or to become traumatized. Like, it's weird. Like, why do people do that? Duh. But anyway, yeah. So you're gonna avoid the things that brought you harm. That's just called self-protection. It's common sense, right? Well, why don't you want to go to church? Well, maybe you didn't have the type of church that I did. Okay. And it's a funny thing because I recall when I was about 10 years old, and we were, stationed overseas at the time. And I was so excited that we had this new church because we had started listening to the tapes, and we were like really excited about having, other believers that we could interact with as a family. And, we could have this whole new life based on the teachings of the Bible. So it's like really exciting. I'm 10 years old. Here I go. I write a letter to the pastor, and I say, hello, Pastor so-and-so. I'm here, stationed in the Philippine Islands, and I am writing you because I would love to have some other Christian pen pals because I'm lonely over here. So here I am, this social creature, right? That I was, so excited about this connection that, I'm going to write this. I don't know what he thought about me. I'm 10, but, I said I would really love to interact with them and get to know them until we're able to one day hopefully move there. So lo and behold, I was able to pen pal back and forth with other young girls. And it was a great experience. Like, I loved that. I loved, finding out about their lives. I always said I was really made for journalism. And I used to say that a lot when I was little, but it was kind of, I don't know, not appreciated nor encouraged for whatever reason. But yeah, here I am, speaking and alliterating and enunciating. I mean, this is my life. I love to talk, and I love to share information and tell stories, which is what journalism is all about. And it's beautiful because it shows us, again, our connectedness. So anyway, after writing the letters, time goes on, and we actually eventually end up moving back to this church. And so there I was able to meet in person all the people that I had pen pal with, and it was like a whole new beginning. Of course, even then I was a little weird. I mean, I was having some difficulties fitting in. I'm okay. Like, I'm so accepting of my weirdness that, like, I know that I'm different, and I'm okay with it. Like, at school, like everybody's trying to be weird now. This is back in the day, you was just crazy. Now everybody's is reveling in being weird. Everybody's a weirdo now. Everybody's spiritual. Everybody, whatever. So, bless us all. Bless our hearts. But anyway, at first it was going really well, and I remember moving there, and we got into this, temporary home, and there was food packed in there and dishes. Like, it was like, oh my gosh, what a warm welcome. So much, so much hospitality. We're in the South, it's great. We love it, da da da. And then things started to change. So although we were Christians and, we were coming from a biblical background, we were going to church wherever we lived, as we traveled. When we got to this particular church, it was different, honey. It was different. I'm a little girl, and I'm like, whoa, what happened? My parents start acting different, and, we had different rules and expectations. Like, it was a different level. It was like Christianity on meth. That's a bad analogy, but, like, it was really amped up. Like, you couldn't do anything. Just shut up, sit down, listen to this preaching. That's how it felt as a child. So at first, again, any adjustment is always stressful, especially for children, and especially if you're not speaking to your children about the changes, because a lot of people, old school parents, don't. They just like, do what I say. That's how it is. Now, of course, in modern times, we sit and we actually talk to our children because we discovered that children are people too. Go figure. But anyway, so... it started off with things like the dress code. Now, here I am, a 10-year-old child, and I ain't done nothing to nobody at 10. I'm sorry. I ain't that bad. I ain't that evil. At 10 years old. Girl, it was like, you can't wear makeup, which I didn't at that time anyway. This is women rules. Can't wear pants. What? So here I am 10. There goes sports. There goes any athleticism. There goes turning cartwheels. You gonna wear and I'm not just talking about a skirt to the knee. Remember, these was amped up Christians. So your skirt had to come all the way down. And I know we look just like them Duggar people, the Duggar family. They was real strict about women, and girls cover. Now men could wear pants. I don't know. I don't recall them wearing shorts, but it was a little bit different for the guys. But women especially, because God made women beautiful. I mean, I can only imagine that, we need that to be covered up so there's no temptation. Just God forbid, beautiful women. Oh Lord, no, with self-esteem. The horror. But anyway, see, humor is helping me get through this. But anyway, we get down there and it's the dress code. Then the TV has to go. You can't watch TV. You can't have a TV in your house because that's worldly. You can't do anything. You got to be totally separate from anything going on in the world. So now we have moved away. We've been ostracized from our biological families. We've been ostracized from even our military family. And now everything is all around this church. Sounds like a cult to me, but don't ask me. What do I know? I just got a degree in, psychology and stuff like that. But that's when I went down to Kennesaw State. They told me that it sounded like a cult, sis. That's a cult. So all these rules, and the Bible, like I said, extreme from the Old Testament. Don't wear stuff that pertains to a man, Then, those are what I call the spoken rules. So the dress code, not being able to, we couldn't even socialize with other churches. Now here we are supposed to be Christians. We could not, we would rent out the whole skating ring, but it would only be our church because apparently nobody else was as holy and as set apart as we were. So that was, it was very ostracizing. But yeah, as a child, I think you just kind of go with the flow. I mean, because your meals are coming in, like your parents be like, we keep a roof over your head. Yeah, you don't ask questions. If people are feeding you, you're going to do what they say. You might cry in your room, but you're going to do what they say. So as time goes by and it really just gets worse because, though, like I said, those were the written rules, some of the written rules, but the preaching was very toxic. And I mean, I can't describe it to you other than it's always preaching focused on going to hell. It doesn't matter if you've been a Christian 1 year or 15 years. The whole premise is fear. Fear, fear, fear. If you don't follow every single one of these rules, you are going to die and go to hell. And who wants to go to hell? Nobody. It's the blood of Jesus. If you don't take this oath, and if you don't not only pray the prayer, but if you don't live exactly as we say you should live, God don't love you, he don't want you, and you a slimy heathen. I'm quoting, on you, hell-bound heathen. That's the kind of stuff he would say. The pastor would say you a slimy, hell-bound heathen. You're going for riding a bullet to hell. It was very, and when you're an adult, I think you can separate. Wow, he's just really on fire for God. But as a child, you're like, I'm really a hell-bound, slimy heathen. Like, I can't even vote or drive a car yet, but I'm already here. So yeah, you become indoctrinated like that. So every little thing you do, every little mistake you made is critiqued. Children are expected to be in perfect authority with their parents, whether they're telling you you agree with it or not. You just got to do what you're told. And if you don't, spare the rod, spoil the child. So there was a lot of beatings. Like I remember getting beat so much that a lot of people are like, oh, it's fine, I'm okay, I got beat a lot. I'm gonna tell you something, that shit traumatized me. My mom used to go to try to hug me and I would jerk like that for a lot of years. So don't tell me that beating is I don't think you were supposed to beat your kids that much. And especially for the things that we were getting beat for, it was based on the stupid rules that were too extra. Like nobody lives like that, just because you feel like that. Because from what I felt spiritually as I got older, the pastor there had trauma from his childhood. So he brings all this anger and this rage and apparent disdain for women, because women in the church that's some of the unspoken rules, are not allowed to speak. You can't even say amen in this congregation if you're a female. You better shut your mouth and tap your toe or because women, the Bible says, should be silent in church. Now, what do you think that is doing to a child's psyche developing. To the men and the young boys and the girls. Number one, the males are thinking, I got all the power. I got all the control. A woman has to sit down and shut up and do what I say. And the young girls are developing thinking, I'm worthless unless I'm doing what men tell me to do. I don't even have a voice here. Literally. You can't even speak. You can't even talk or have an opinion, period. So if the grown women are like that, the young girls are just growing up feeling terrified. Okay. So it was really worse than I think I'm articulating, simply because I've done so much healing and had so many years of therapy with trained professionals since I was young, that now it's more of a learning experience, and it's more about integrating those experiences as part of my story. Like, I get to own my story and look fabulous, girl. Yes. Okay. Like, that wasn't the end for me. But I will say that we were all told growing up in that church that if we didn't comply, we would live terrible lives, that God would pretty much rain his wrath down on us, and we were going to, quote unquote, flip out and all kinds of BS. So we were trained through this narcissistic mindset to expect failure and to expect destruction. That was the tactic to keep everybody in line. Another thing that was bothersome was, if you went to a movie theater, which was a no-no, you can't watch movies, not secular movies, or you went out to dinner with a friend, a teenage friend or something that wasn't a Christian, or you did anything that the church thought was not approved, you would get either preached at from the pulpit. So instead of preaching what the power and the love of God, you're preaching to the people to keep them compliant by calling out their sin from the pulpit. So, and these are tape recordings that's going all over the world. So you're talking about people's, how unprofessional, and come to find out, the pastor didn't even really have any credentials. He just decided, this is who I am. Y'all got to do what I say. And people felt, I don't know how, but hey, I was a kid. So he decides, I get to stand up here and humiliate you in front of the whole church. So who wants that? Of course, you're going to start doing what you have to do. You're going to submit, because nobody wants to be humiliated in front of the entire congregation and all over the world because he was in a bad mood and put your information all out for the world to hear. The Spirit said to me, it's time for the shame narrative to go. And the people who created shame are the ones who are going to have to be accountable for it now. Not us. We're going to live happy and carefree. Hallelujah. And so anyway, and it's crazy because some of the adults that were there are still like mentally like they don't get it. They just like, oh yeah, those was the time. Because I think it was the security, like the money. A lot of the women didn't have to work outside the home. It was kind of like this little world, like utopia, but it was a nightmare. Like at the same time, you had to give up your entire worth and value as a person and comply. And if not, you were in the toilet. People were talking about you and criticizing you. And then you had to confess. There was always women and men standing up at the front of the church. I lusted after somebody. I found them attractive. And I already got a husband or a wife. So you're sitting there like, damn, you can't even breathe without somebody having a problem with what you were doing. I remember, we couldn't celebrate holidays. There was no Christmas. There was no nothing. That's why now I go all out like a maniac. Even Halloween. Because I can. It's like being emancipated from slavery, like off the plantation. But anyway, one year we had a little it was like one of those little fir trees. It wasn't even an actual Christmas tree. And I remember distinctly my mother, she hung little boxes like from the dollar store, not really ornaments. It's just like little Christmas present boxes on the tree just to make the house look festive. It smelled good. It smelled like pine. Do you know somebody came to our house and reported that back to the pastor? You weren't allowed to do anything. You could not travel. You could not go out of town. It would get back to him, and then you would have to answer for everything. Now, honestly, like my dad would go up and sometimes let him know about himself, like you taking it too far. But at the end of the day, as a child, you can't reconcile why your parents keep you in a toxic environment. If they're willing to do it, you start to think, well, it must be the right thing to do. So, of course, anybody who thinks for themselves and has a brain and starts to make different choices is rebellious. You're a witch. You're rebellious, like the sin of witchcraft. You're not able to comply. I remember, when I was about 9, 10, maybe I was about 12. 2 of my cousins came from out of state who were not in that environment to visit, and they sat in the pew and cried. the whole time he was preaching. I'll never forget that. They were just, oh no. They became so sin conscious, and they were like kids. They were like 9 and 10 years old. They was like, I don't want to go to hell. Because of course, the premise of the Christian religion is that we're all, because of Adam, born into sin. Like that's just how it is. So I'm not saying whether I agree with that or not. I'm just saying you might want to read and research for yourself, because some people, you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. So, and then the common thread with most of the people there are they're either kind of not that smart, not, like they don't have good reasoning skills, they're easy to control, or they're people who've been traumatized. If you don't process your trauma, and if you don't let God heal you, anybody can come along and tell you anything. Your journey in life will become very hard. Your life will become very difficult to live. Because why? You're not coming to worship God in spirit and in truth. You're coming to worship God as what he said, a slimy, filthy, non-worthy heathen on your way to hell. So it was really sad. And I felt trapped there for many years. And, finally, when I graduated high school, I got away and I came out. And of course, I did exactly what he said I would do, because I had been programmed to screw my life up. That's what cult leaders do. It's not that God was mad and punishing me. There's people who live lives way worse than I did and still ended up blessed. But every little thing I did was just so. I really just kind of self-sabotaged for many years. I was just meandering through life, just trying to kill myself through experiences. That's what it felt like, But that wasn't the real me. That was the me that was created because of my environment. So the lesson here is, you're who God says you are, not your environment, not what people say, not people's opinions. Everybody has an opinion. If you live your life based on the opinions of other people, you'll be all over the place, because everybody has a different one. The best way to know is what's in your heart, what's in your spirit, how your connection is with God. And then when I left and started reading the rest of the Bible, about the love of God, the mercy of God, how we're not under the law and the grace, and all those different things made me, and the Psalms, what a relief. Proverbs and things like that I could still have a relationship with God without, being constricted and confined to the negativity that was in my environment. The abuse, it was really abuse. It was spiritual abuse, because he used his power and authority as a pastor to keep everybody in subjection to him, probably for this, more than likely, because you got a pretty nice lifestyle, you know what I'm saying? Everybody's scared to leave your church. You could live a pretty good life. Some of the members were really nice. Some of them were crazy. I mean, that's anywhere. But another incident I recall is when I got about 16 or 17, I was like, this is bull crap, and I'm getting ready to pack up and go somewhere. So I started leaving a lot, which it was warranted. I mean, it was insane. Nobody was listening, but some of us are just, girl, God just made me like this. He made me a free spirit. I don't have to do, I ain't doing nothing that I don't want to do. I'm just not, if it don't make sense, I'm not doing it. I don't care what you're saying. I don't care how angry you are, how you scream and yell and beat me up. I don't care. I'm not doing it. So I remember one time I got beat for running away to the thrift store because I wanted a pair of pants. I got tired of the kids teasing me at school about looking like an 84-year-old grandma every day in long dresses and couldn't wear pants. So that was a huge infraction. Slap, beat up. Then I recall, oh God, but there's a lot of stories, but not to go into too much detail other than saying, if forgiveness is the path. Like, I can laugh about it now because I'm out of there, but I do, on a serious note, I do empathize for other people. Like, I have a neighbor now, like, her kids are homeschooled and she's super Christian. And sometimes I just think, oh my God, I hope they're not over there going through what I went through. So I just pray for them all the time, because you never know what people are dealing with behind closed doors. They looking as happy on the little family portrait, and they just as miserable. That household is a nightmare. It is a freaking nightmare to live in. And you got all the money and travel and all the fun you want, but you got to deal with them that crazy mentality. You're not validated, and then this was with my stepdad, so there was a lot of layers. Like, it made me feel I wasn't really loved for who I was. I had to be who he thought I should be as a girl, because of course, he's feeding me, he's raising me. What other choice do I have? And then I had to be who the church thought I should be. And then, my mother was like, had her whole idea about my personality and how I should be. So it was like, who am I? And then everything I wanted to do was extremely discouraged, because I'm naturally a free spirit. Okay, I'll just tell you. I like what I like. But once you look back and you realize that most people, are dealing with their own suffering, it doesn't negate your suffering. You still have to forgive them, and you have to forgive yourself. Because most people will say, oh my God, they were like that. They'll make all kinds of prayers and excuses for the people, but when they deal with themselves, they can't shake that feeling. And that's what hurts the most, for people like that in clergy who abuse their power. They don't understand that years later, those little kids who were in that environment, like, you couldn't even go to the bathroom or sit in the nursery. That rash, I'll never forget the sound of that raspy, rash, hate-filled voice over that speaker. You couldn't even go in there and take a breath without his voice coming over the speaker. Sunday, Wednesday night, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Wednesday night. It was a nightmare. And the people, I don't understand, like, how can you just sit there and pay tithes and offerings to somebody who condemns you to hell every sermon and talks about all your failures and how it's so devilish? There's no love, there's no mercy, there's no compassion. It's all, and then you become ingrained in your psyche that love must be suffering. Then you leave the church and you go and you date men who make you suffer. You marry men who make you suffer, because your mind equates suffering and love as one. Insane, right? You got to break the psychology now. Whatever your environment was when you were a child, you need to examine it and find out which part is you and which part was the drama, because the drama don't belong to you. You can send that back. Spiritually, you just be like, I clear myself and I send that back to the source. I'm not dealing with that. I forgive them people and I move on with my life. And that's how you heal your heart. And that's how you open up yourself to new experiences and things that make you smile and bring you joy and give you deep satisfaction. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And you keep living your life, and then all these new opportunities open up for you. And you transmute that pain and that suffering into wealth, into your story. And then your story, hopefully, can enlighten and heal someone else who thinks they're lonely, who thinks they're not going through it. Is it to make people feel bad? Is it so the pastor or one of his members can watch the video and be like, oh my God, she just lied. She's just so mean. Why would she say that? Da, 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 da. Oh, it's whatever. No, it's for you. It's for you to get your spirit right. There's a quote by Zora Neale Hurston that, she says something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing, that if you don't tell your story, somebody else will tell it and then try to tell people you liked it. Oh, I remember you was this. What about when you had that? Listen, that's your interpretation of events. Nobody can explain my point of view better than I can. See? And that makes you powerful. That means you own all your power. And when you speak with an authority that resonates, that lets people know that you're not the one, and not only did you survive, but now you're thriving. You go on and you create the best and wealthiest life for yourself. That's the proof in and of itself that God is who he says he is, or she is, however you want to call God. Okay? You're not limited to what you grew up in or what you saw. That doesn't have to be your story. It's not that you have to be disrespectful or hurt people's feelings, but you have to speak your truth. The Bible clearly says it's the truth that makes you free. If I'm not speaking my truth, I'm not going to be free. I'm going to be running around with my mouth closed, everybody happy but me. No, I'm going to tell my truth. And I'm going to liberate my soul. And guess what? That's my time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening. How do I stop? Stop!